Hi, my name is Brigitte Schmidt, and I'm here to share with you a little bit about Advent. And one of the ways that my family has really enjoyed celebrating Advent is through an Advent wreath. We keep ours on our dining room table, and when we're able to have a full sit-down dinner, which is about 3 or 4 times a week, we do our Advent wreath readings and the lighting of the Advent wreath. So today I'm going to show you some of the supplies you need to make your own Advent wreath. At the local craft store, you can get a nice little plastic bowl and some styrofoam foam. And this is the type of foam that you have to let sit in water for overnight. And so what you do then is you would cut your mold in half and then place it right in here. And then I picked these up through a floral shop. These are what you will use to hold your Advent wreath candles. And what you can do then is you place them like this down in your styrofoam. And to keep all of this connected, we have some floral tape. And this floral tape actually can be picked up at Michael's, or if you have a local florist or relationship that you use, you can get your floral tape through them. So you just do a criss cross. This doesn't have to be pretty, as you can see, because it is all going to be hidden by the greens that we will be using today. Anyone who makes an Advent wreath will probably, no two will turn out the same, because we all have our different preferences in our greeneries that we use. So what you can do with this then is you have to fill this bowl up with water, probably about 3 times, and let it soak overnight. So I'm going to put this one away and then bring out this one that I made last night. And this is a little smaller one because I have a habit of using a little too many and too large of greens and having them be a little too big. One thing I'll share with you is that you do need to water this regularly. I'd say at least twice a week to keep this really moist. And you should be careful when placing this on a wood table. I tend to use some type of mat or something that will protect my wooden dining room table. So this morning I went out and I clipped 2 of the old Christmas trees that we had planted in our yard. And my husband Bruce clipped from our holly tree because I really like the berries in this. And what you do is best resource you need here is you will clip down in different lengths, and then you start slowly inserting this into the foam. And I gradually, slowly just turn it like this and just keep pushing them in. And I keep clipping. I have, down in the south when I was visiting my Aunt Darla, she had some beautiful magnolia, and we used magnolia one year. Whatever you have in your yard or your next door neighbor's yard, you can ask to do that. Now the reason for doing an Advent wreath this time of the year is that we are preparing the way for Jesus. And so what we like to do is celebrate this time of 4 weeks, and celebrate the coming. And an Advent wreath is beautiful because it's nice and round and circular and green. And that symbols like the church holy cycle and the beginning of the new liturgical year. How we have no beginning and no end. You can think of like the eternity of God's love. The love never dies. It's evergreen. God doesn't abandon us or forsake us. He's always with us. And then we have the 4 candles. The first candle we're going to light is for hope. And then we have a candle for peace, joy, and love. There are plenty of liturgical resources with readings for you to read every night and prayers. Some churches even do a blessing of the Advent wreath. And some individuals like to include a fifth candle right in the center, a white one that they will light on Christmas Eve, symbolizing the light of Christ. See, I have a little brown stub there. I can just cut that off. And you just try to work slowly, judging the depth and being consistent in putting the greens in and slowly building this. Some people will do an Advent wreath lighting if they're not, big diners with dinner. They'll do it at sunset if the family's all present. Or else you can do it as a bedtime prayer with your family and children. One year, we were so busy with sports and all with our kids and activities, we ended up just keeping this on the kitchen counter. It was a room we're in and out of all the time. And it was just a beautiful reminder of the spirituality of the season. And it's very easy to get caught up in, the secular aspect of Christmas. But the Advent wreath keeps you, in that liturgical anticipation cycle and looking forward to the coming of Christ. So this is a very individual thing. I remember this, while growing up. It's a tie to my childhood as well. I grew up moving around a lot. My parents were, my dad was a military officer. So consistency-wise for Christmas, it wasn't always the same place or the lights in the same spot, but we always had an Advent wreath on the dining room table. Now, it always wasn't a fresh green one. Sometimes it was just a simple circle. But I really enjoy the greens. When I do cut these greens, though, I also cut them for my mantle on my fireplace, and I also lay them in my windowsills with a battery-powered white candle. I have actually tied greens up the railings as well, but you don't need to commit to going all out. And it's also nice if you're doing this to even consider making a wreath at the same time for your front door. And I've done this where I've set it up in my garage on tables and invited some neighbors over to do it as a small community. And everybody bring fresh greens because what you're going to use may be different than someone else, and then you can share your greens. I like to use at least 3 different greens. I think it offers a little bit of variety. As you can see here, I've almost finished the first layer. And I just chose this layer because it's a little flat and it's softer. I could continue and do a second layer of them, but knowing that these are much fuller and will take up more space, I think I'm just going to do 1 layer of this greenery here and use this up. Okay, now on to this. This was fun today. It was a little chilly out cutting this. So I want this to go in a little farther, so I'm going to try to build it in closer, which gets to be a little hard for me because I like things fluffy and puffy. There we go. I'm going to trim these down a little. So constantly turning and rotating. So eventually the styrofoam won't be seen at all. This also is a wonderful gift if you are traveling for the holidays, Thanksgiving. If you wanted to bring this as a centerpiece to give to the host or the hostess. Over the next 2 weeks, when pieces of this maybe go a little brown, I will remove them and substitute it and freshen it up I probably only need to do that once during the 4 weeks, as long as you keep it watered. And while you're out making this mess, it actually is just as easy to make 2 of these at the same time, so that you have one for your home and one to give. Okay, I've done a full layer here. And oh, I like how that's coming up like that. I'm just going to do a little more because I just can't say no to this. Here we go, get that in there. You can even use these little ones here too. They'll all stay alive. They look perfect. And then afterwards you can even go back, and if you have any holes you can fill it in. Now, as you can see, it's turning into a nice round circle here. Now onto the holly, the prickly holly, which you do see I cut myself today pruning out there. So I trimmed down the holly, just cutting some of the leaves off, and I'll do these outer ones maybe a little longer, and then the ones in the top here I'll do real small and tiny, and then go straight down in here so that there's something, you can still put the candles in, but there's some greenery right in there in the base. I'm trying to keep my berries as much as I can because I love that. If you have any Nandina berries, those are wonderful as well. You probably do need to be cognizant of anything that may be, if you have cats, anything that may be poisonous. You wouldn't want your animals to get sick during the holidays. You can also actually put in some artificial berries or greens in here as well. I've seen some of the local florists here even, they use, it's 90% green, and then they'll put in some 10% some dried flowers, and sometimes even plastic they'll put in. So don't think you have to have it be 100% fresh greens. We're all for making it a little more beautiful. As you can see, it's starting to build. All the holes are starting to be filled. Look at this, just little berries. I'm going to get these in here. There we go, right by the candle. So as you finish, you just fill in the holly, and then you can take some of the scraps from your other greenery and place them in here as well to sort of fill that whole area, leaving the room for the candles. St. Agnes has these Advent candles for you as well. And when you pull them out of the set, there'll be some plastic covering them that you remove, and then you take the candles and you just firmly place them in the candle holder that's in here. And when you put them in there, you just sort of wiggle them in. There we go. And then you can afterwards go through and look at your Advent wreath and fill in a bow if you would like. You can also put in some religious symbols that you have, or religious ornaments on it. You can decorate it however you would like. If you guys have any questions, I'm in the parish directory. I'm Brigitte Schmidt. You can give me a call. I really enjoy doing this and think it's a lot of fun. And just don't be afraid to make any mistakes, because no Advent wreath is going to be perfect. There we go. You want to get a nice shot at that. And you can see here I still have to fill in a little more here. Thank you for spending time and watching this video, and I wish you and your family a very Merry Christmas.